Hello everyone! Welcome to my new breeding guide for the game ARK Survival Evolved. Some of you may know my old breeding guides on my German YouTube channel, but those guides are already a few years old now and many things have changed. And also I have learned a lot of things regarding ARK-Breeding. That's also why it took so long making this video. I had to put all the new information together. I hope this video will help you. And if anything is still unclear to you, just leave me a message here, write a comment, or join our Discord and join the breeding discussions. Also, I would like you to subscribe to my channel if you like the content and if you're interested in more content like this. But now, to the video. First of all, some general words to the breeding mechanic in ARK. If you want to breed dinos or animals in general in ARK, no matter if colors or stats, you should consider some things. First, what dino do I want to breed, and second, why? The reason is, breeding is one of the most time-consuming things in ARK, which means you need to have a motivation and a goal to do this for a very long time. Otherwise, you would start it, lose the interest, and you would be disappointed in yourself that you didn't achieve what you wanted to reach. So, what you are doing now is you're choosing your animal you want to breed, and then you think about why you want to breed it. And based on that, we can see how we proceed from that. Because overall the breeding works very similar for all animals. But based on what animal you want to breed, there are slight differences you want to keep in mind. For example, which stat do you want to breed first? Which stat do you need? What is it used for? All these things are important. The easiest example is a Thericino you use for bosses will be leveled differently than a Thericino you use for farming. These are my Megatheriums and my Thericinosaurs. And I'm going to show you my breeding strategies with these two examples. I'm going to show you what exactly I do when I start a new breeding line. One disclaimer though, my breeding project is on a modded server, or rather on a modded cluster. These mods do not change the vanilla breeding mechanics. So while I am able to achieve things faster, even though I do some shortcuts, these methods I am teaching you will also work on unmodded, official, and even on console games. So everything I tell you can be done on every server. But the time it takes to achieve things might differ. Don't get discouraged if things take longer on your server or in your single player game than on my server. Things are different and we all play different. But enough explanations. Time to start into it. This is now the point where most of the people turn off their videos, because now we reach the point I'm telling you about the dry and boring facts and numbers. I'm trying my best to make it as short and precise as possible, because I myself have the problem to explain things on point when I am deep in the topic myself. So I'm trying my best here. If anything is still unclear though, please leave me a comment and we will figure it out. So first of all, you need to choose animals you want to breed with. This is going to be your basic breeding group. Which animals you choose depends highly on what kind of server you play. Do you play on official servers or a server where breeding takes long time and you don't have any mods helping you with that? Then you need to start with the highest stats you can get. It is easier to find good stats and then tame that animal than to try mutate a medium animal up to good stats. On the other hand, if you play on a boosted server like me and you have the chance to force mutations, then you can start with medium good animals because mutating them will be faster than hunting stats, just like I did with my Megatheriums here. I basically just tamed 2 Megatheriums and I believe those were both level 150 and then mated them over and over again until I had enough unmutated females to be my base group. The females you can see down under here at the platform and the males are above. But this only works on a boosted server. Even if it's more work, consider hunting the stats on slower servers because you will have a big time advantage. I can't stress enough that it's absolutely important that your females are not mutated. never breed a mutated male with a mutated female before you finished mutating your line. If you're doing this, you are, in the worst case, able to destroy your whole breeding line. And that is something we do not want. And I'm here to teach you how to not destroy your breeding line. So keep this in the back of your head until we're at that point explaining. And yeah, the last point that is very important, nobody talks really about it, but you can't breed with every stat, or you shouldn't. And what I mean with this, I'm going to show you on another server because I have the result of a perfect breeding project on the other server. And sometimes it's way easier to show it in order to explain it. And therefore I'm going to switch the servers and I'll be right back. Sometimes you have to see the perfect result of a breeding program in order to understand how to get there. First of all, I cannot take the credit for this one. Scarf, a friend and an ally from our cluster, has put a lot of work and resources into breeding this griffin by just doing the mutation thing right. Please keep in mind this animal does not exist because of admin sheets. It's the result of proper planning and breeding on a 150 max dino level cluster server. And my goal here is to give you the knowledge so you can achieve this yourself. One thing you will probably notice is that this animal has 255 points in every stat. And exactly 255, but in one. Melee damage has only 254 points. Just ignore movement speed for now, because since it's a flyer, movement speed is not really important and I don't think it's even possible to get points in there. But you can see every other single stat has been maxed out to 255 points but melee. And I'm here to explain to you why. 255 seems to be a magical number here. And the reason is 255 is the maximum amount of stat points you can get into a single stat. If you mutate further than that, I heard you will just reroll the stat and so you start back at the beginning, and of course that's nothing you want. The downside is, if your animal is born with 255 points into a stat, you will not be able to level this stat at all. All level ups for that stat will be blocked. But on the other hand, if you have 254 points, leveling is no problem at all. And now you can see what has been done here. Since you will get 2 levels every mutation, you may now already understand why I'm giving you this information right at the very, very beginning. Because when you choose your animal, you need to make sure the stats you do not want to level afterwards need to be odd numbers, while the stats you want to level need to be even numbers. Since you always get 2 points, there is no way to change if a number is an odd number or an even number afterwards. So, if a stat is not important and you want to reach the full capacity of 255 points, make sure you start with an odd number. If the stat is important and you want to get extra levels on top of the stats, then stop mutating at 254 points and then you can fully level up this stat. And just to prove to you that I'm not perfect, I did this exact mistake with my Megatheriums. Yes, I did. I did not pay attention to odd and even numbers, and now I messed up, and now I'm way too far into the mutations to fix it again. So I will have to live with my mistake for the end of time. But now that you know about the odd and even numbers, you know how to avoid my mistakes and you know how to avoid many other people's mistakes and maximize your breeding experience and your breeding result. And since we have this out of the way, we can go back to the Megatheriums and go back to the further breeding theory in order to see what's next. Now I'm going to explain to you the complete procedure, how the mutating and breeding works. Down here are only female Megatheriums without any mutations. The stats are completely unimportant. It's only important that they are female and unmutated. While I am breeding, these females will not be exchanged. They will stay under this platform for the whole duration of my breeding program. On top of the platform I have the male megatheriums. Each males represent one breeding line. On the left side is my melee damage line and on the right side is my health line. Both males have all their mutations exclusively on that one stat they represent. These males will get exchanged as soon as a new male with a higher stat in the stat they represent is born. And if you paid attention to what I said when I showed you the griffin, here's my mistake. Both numbers are odd numbers, which means I can't mutate them to 254 in order to level them fully up. I will have to either level one to 255 and the other to 253 in order to max one stat and level the other, or I keep both at 253 and be able to level both. This way I'm losing two potential levels though. Learn from my mistakes. Maybe you now understand why I paid so much attention explaining to you the odd and even numbers. Next time I start a new breeding line, I will make sure that I'm doing it right. The thing I am doing now, and it's the same thing I will be doing with the Dinosaurs, because there I have life and melee damage on two different males, I'm going to mate this male with all the females under the platform. And if I get an animal that has the stat of the father, and on top the stat also mutates, so in my case, because I'm using the S+ mutators, it would be 4 additional stat points on top, I keep it. If you don't use mutators, you get 2 additional points instead. So in my case now, the baby that has 99 points into damage will become the new breeding male. And if you don't use mutators, then in my case you would have to look for a baby that has 97 points in melee damage. I have done this yesterday already, and here's the male, 99 points into melee damage. This one is going to replace the male up here. After that you pretty much just repeat the step. At the moment I am mutating 2 lines at the same time, and that has this reason. If I am getting a mutation like I did here with the 99 melee male, I need to wait until the male is grown to push the mutations further. In that time the females just stand around. For these times I can then push the mutations on the health line in order to progress and use the females after the cooldown is over. So while the 99 melee male was growing, I proceeded with the health male. I unfortunately did not get a health mutation yesterday, but I will get one next time for sure. But this way I can alternate the males depending on where I have to wait for a new male to get adult, to become the new breeder and be a little bit more efficient. You do this for as long as it takes until all your stats are maxed out, either to 255 or 254, depending on the stat you're mutating. No rocket science behind this. The way you push the mutations does not change. If you have maxed out all of your stats, then you can combine them all together on one animal by breeding a maxed male with a female, keep a female with a maxed stat, breed the next maxed male with that female until you get a female with 2 maxed stats, and so on. Normal stat combining here, nothing special. And that's it. That's how you get the perfect animal. I'm going to mention color mutations on the side for a little, because it's not such a big deal to explain. You get a color mutation at the same time when a stat mutates. You don't have to do anything to get them. What I'm doing is, and you see I have a few megatheriums standing in my base, I raise those with nice colors regardless of which mutation they got. Once they are grown, I will cryo them and store them in the cryo fridges for further breeding projects. And here I can recommend our little tool, you have seen it in an earlier video, our color scanner, to see which colors you got. Later you can put your favorite color combination on an animal with the perfect stats. That was all in all everything you need to know in order to breed and mutate your own dinosaurs. Not too complicated, right? I will now go through some questions I got from you guys that might answer the questions you may have now. So maybe that clears up some further things. If you have any more questions after this video, please don't hesitate writing me a message into the comments or join our Discord. The first and probably also most asked question is, what's the deal with the mutation counter? As you can see, if you press this button down here, you open the ancestry or pedigree of your animal. On top of the screen are the mutation counter of your animals they inherited from their mother's and father's side. Both sides here are 0 because our females are always without mutations, and that's the case for all females below this platform. But on top of the platform, things are different, because up here are our mutated males. The melee male up here has 17 mutations on his father's side, but 0 mutations on his mother's side. The health male is not that far yet. He only has 1 of 20 on the mother's side and 2 of 20 on the father's side. And now the big question, what's the deal with it? I will try to explain it to you now, because once you understand it, it's not super complicated, but to explain it is a little trickier. Bear with me, I'm trying. If anything stays unclear the way I'll explain it, write me a message down in the comments and we will figure it out. Also keep in mind there are a lot more things about the mutation counter I could go in depth with, but for our tutorial right now it's not important. First of all, the mutation counter can be higher than only 20, and I can probably even show you how that looks. Here you can see it with this wyvern. The mutation counter can go above 20, and it can even go far beyond that as well, as you can see on the left side. The confusing part is that it is in the game since they introduced breeding. It probably started as a bug, but quickly became part of the game mechanics because it was never addressed or fixed. But now I'm going to explain to you in detail what consequences you need to pay attention to for your breeding. As long as one animal, either mother or father, is below 20 mutations when both sides added together, it can cause a mutation on a baby, so nothing really changes for you. So this animal has 17 mutations because 0 and 17 is 17. Therefore this animal is not capped yet, but it's very close to. And this one here has 3 mutations because 1 and 2 makes 3. These 2 animals will have no difference in breeding at all. So as long as an animal is below 20 mutations overall, nothing changes and it can cause a mutation on a baby. But now to the point where the mutation counter actually does make a difference. And as soon as one animal, and let's take this one as an example, because he's the closest, exceeds the 20 mutations, it cannot cause a mutation anymore. And the only chance to trigger the mutation is the mother sides. That's why they always need to stay mutation-free. You can even see on the second Megatherium how it looks when it mutates from the mother's side. If he has offspring with an unmutated female, and his offspring has no additional mutations, the baby would have 0 mutations on the mother's side, but 3 mutations on the father's side, because the father had overall 3 mutations. That way you keep one side almost always mutation-free. This is called mutation stacking, and you can mutate an animal like this as long as you want. See the parents as a double chance to get a mutation triggered to a baby. As soon as one parent is capped, you halve your chances to get a mutation. So if the line reaches 20 mutations in the further progress of breeding, I am slowing down my breeding progress to 50%, because the side cannot mutate anymore, only the mother's side. That's also the point where the progress is noticeable slower. To even that out, you can then use twice as many females. That is also the reason why I have separated lines, because reaching the 20 mutation cap when stacking all kind of mutations on only one animal is rather quick. But if I use the double mutation chance as long as possible, I can progress quicker overall before the cap slowdown hits me. It's not as complicated as you thought, right? And that is my very simplified, quick explanation of how the mutation counter works. The second question that I also get asked a lot is, I got a mutation now and I got it on a female. What am I doing now? And this happens more often than you think. The answer to this is pretty easy. If you get the right mutation on the wrong gender and you are using S+ on your server, you can use the S+ mutator and just simply invest some element and switch the female to male. If you don't use S+ because you play on official or an unmodded server or even console, you need to mate the female with an unmutated male. If you have your very first male that you tamed in the very beginning, you can just use this one. It is just important not to breed a mutated female with a mutated male, because that will artificially higher your mutation counter without getting mutations, and we don't want that. So breed the female with an unmutated male until you get a male baby that inherits the mutated stat. That male will then become your main breeder. The last question that is also asked quite a bit is, which stats are important for breeding? Do I need to write down the stats before taming, after taming, or even the level stats when I'm mating the dinos? This question is also easy to answer. If you have a spyglass like I have here that shows you the stats of your animal, pay attention to the left number in the brackets. Those are your base stats or base levels. If I now go to this male and level it up, let's say I put 2 levels into melee damage. You can see in the brackets that those levels will be shown on the right side and not added to the left. So these levels I gave the animal cannot be given to the baby through mating with this male. So the numbers on the left are the levels in a stat that you get either right after taming or right after the animal is born. If you can't use a spyglass mod like this, you need to either screenshot or write down the stats right away. If you get the stats from a baby, make sure to write it down after the baby is born and not imprinted, because an imprint will change the values of the animal and will make it tough for you to retrace which stats you started with. So directly after the birth, make a screenshot, make a picture, or write it down right away. If you're playing ARK on the Steam version, then you can also download the ARK Smart Breeder and export the animal within the game like I do now, and it will then create a small file on your computer that you can import into the program. It can read out all the important values, even after you imprinted and leveled your animals. The link to the program is in the description. But to wrap it up, only base stats, nothing leveled, nothing imprinted. Those are the important stats for breeding. And this was my little breeding guide how to breed and mutate animals in ARK. If you're missing something, then just write it into the comments and I'm happy to help you. I hope this video was helpful for you. And if you liked it, I would be happy if you could give this video a thumbs up so the YouTube algorithm ranks it higher and more people can find it. If you're interested in more content like this, consider subscribing as well. And now have a nice day and thanks for watching!